The truth behind the Cowboys and Dak Prescott's offensive collapse in 2024 is actually encouraging because of how easy it should be to fix. Dak and the offense riding high in 2023. Then 2024, the Cowboys offense suddenly came screeching to a halt. So what happened? Here's Dak 30th in Pro Football Focus rankings. Well, while Dak did have his worst season yet as a pro, the Cowboys front office also had a bad season underbuilding the roster. The result? Absolute clarity on what it takes to win around Dak and have an efficient offense against a tougher schedule, which they will face in 2025. So 2023 wasn't a lie. 2024 was a truth serum. Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this, Cowboys? Yeah!
All right, welcome in. This episode of How About Wow brought to you by our friends at Harbor Lighting, the specialty lighting design and installation team of DFW. That is Harbor Lights with a U, and thank them very much. Let me just start by asking you, okay, how likely do you think it is we get back to 2023 levels of play for Dak? Please, if you like the channel, like the video, and then leave a comment down below. I love chatting about these topics with you. So does New Bear. I mean, you can go check the other videos. We are replying and following up with every comment because, you know, we love talking football with you throughout the day. New Bear, we just cannot have him play like this again, my man. And that is, we're going to take a look at all the 2024 interceptions. And, you know, the first one, Brooks falls down, but there are 7 others in here. And the amazing thing to me is it's not a ton of pressure from the outside on many of these. He's just not seeing guys or trying to force it because the offense is stuck in the mud and it's doing nothing. And he's like, well, I guess we're going to have to try to get points, and he's putting the ball in risk. But then a lot of the others are getting pressure up the middle. And, you know, I think that is going to be one of the main points for this Cowboys team is how do we get pressure out of the middle and how do we open up the passing game in the middle? Because last year, not good in those departments.
Some of this is circumstantial too. And by that, I mean, the game's decided, you know, that one, the last one against the Saints is 41-19 in the fourth quarter. He's just forcing a ball. These are the ones that are the most concerning. Red zone, guys clearly not being on the same page, or him floating the ball to the front of the pylon while the receiver and even CeeDee Lamb is running through the back of the end zone. You know, this stuff's going to happen. I mean, Tom Brady made picks like through balls like this. What's concerning is the ones where he's forcing balls in the red zone to places where the receiver just isn't even going to be, right? This is a trap coverage. You can see Branch isn't really guarding the flat. I mean, he's got to dump that ball in the flat and take what's there. Those are the concerning ones.
I think the biggest thing that I see as the common factor, but beyond pressure up the middle, is there's so many guys in the screen when the interception happens. Like, it's double and triple covered. And that to me speaks about like the game context. We're struggling. We got to try something. You know, and when it comes to Dak avoiding these kind of picks, I don't know if
rewind this one though. Because this contradicts what you're saying. Because this is midfield. You want to take a shot. You cross midfield. But he's staring down. There's a man-free safety
in his face.
But that's a center fielder coming over. That ball's got to be in the end zone. That ball's got to be 10 yards down the field further, right? So that's what I'm saying is like there are throws that are concerning that you got to take that sack.
But why? Okay, but you look at the play. Why did that throw not have the power on it? Watch right before he throws.
For sure,
guy in his face. He's crushed.
So
he cannot follow through on that.
You're counting on Tyler Booker.
Yeah.
Booker, BB Smith, like you got to be solid up front, right? And to your point, we've been talking a lot for the past few weeks about, is Guyton going to step up, or is Guyton going to get pushed in camp to the point where he might not even be the guy?
Yeah.
But this kind of stuff right here, that the half roll to the short side or cutting the field in half ostensibly, and it's CeeDee Lamb, that ball's got to be thrown out of bounds or to your grandmother in the stands. I think the circumstantial stuff where it's 41-19 or 40-9 and he's forcing a ball, less concerning. Even getting hit right when you release the ball, less concerning. Stuff happens. It's NFL football. The other team's on scholarship too, right? They're getting paid too. But the red zone or when you're crossing midfield and you're set up to take a play or take a shot and want to make a play, the want to make a play can't outweigh the play not being there.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And that's when it comes down to the discipline. And I think Dak has typically been very good at that. But, you know, if we jump in here to the stats, I think what we're looking at right here is when they can get home with 4 and drop those other 7 guys, there's almost 2 defensive backs for every passing option, or a linebacker plus a defensive back for every passing option. And I just think that's absolute checkmate with Dak Prescott. As much as I appreciate the things that he does well, in those situations, it's bad. And I think the statistical data here, as we pour over it from Pro Football Focus, enforces that. When he was kept clean last year, 75 score. Under pressure, 49. That's big time trouble. That's orange. Not blitzed, 61. When blitzed, 78. Can I get you to send an extra guy? And now I become the best version of myself, which is, historically been quite consistent with the top quarterbacks in the game.
Absolutely. And, you said it, and it's one of those things that goes back to his mom, goes back to the way he's been coached at every level. Take care of the ball, matriculate the ball down the field, take what the defense gives you. Don't make mistakes. Don't beat yourself. And go back to when he was a rookie and you look at some of the touchdown to interception numbers historically with him are very good. He is a guy who likes to take the chunk ball. He likes to throw the ball down the field. He likes to take shots. He does that as much, if not more, than your favorite quarterback in whatever city you're watching this show from. But then last year, when things get constricted and you're talking about CeeDee Lamb as your one guy, you're talking about Ferguson being in and out of the lineup, having injuries, playing hurt when he was available, and not having that seam stretcher down the middle. They also didn't have a receiving threat, a legitimate threat out of the backfield. So now you're looking at every level of the passing offense. You're talking about wide receivers out wide, wide receivers deep, tight end in the middle, receivers out of the backfield. He doesn't have a whole lot he can count on. And oh, by the way, he's getting punched in the mouth when he's releasing that ball.
Yeah, he is. Okay, next angle here on How About Wow.
Take our trailer. Take our trailer. Play it as often as you want.
I love it. I love that Jimmy Johnson, man. I can't get enough of it. But we go to the play action numbers here. Play action last year, about the only way that the offense was really good was, when he did that, or if he was unpressured. No play action, 63. On screen, 65. Not bad. No screens, 66. But, I think the play action is going to get you the bigger plays downfield. So it's handing it off. It's handing it off to get that defense leaning, and then you can go over the top for big plays, and the big plays throwing downfield, something Dak was very good at. So the concerning thing from last year is they were 27th in the NFL, New Bear, right? So this is where the coaching component comes of the surroundings on Dak Prescott last year really let him down. The only thing you're doing great is play action, other than staying completely clean.
Well,
and we were 27th in the NFL calling those plays.
Think about that contextually, because PFF, these guys are talking about Dallas having arguably the worst running back room in the league. And if they were 27th last year and they're 30 or 32nd this year, in the absence of a playmaker and seeing who's going to step up and really take the reins, or in a running back by committee situation, that's what's so interesting about play action football. Because even if you're not a great running team, like go back and look at, even Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, like some of the best quarterbacks of their generation had so-so running games, or didn't have a bell cow guy, but they did enough to just make the defense have to respect it. And then, oh, by the way, when you put the ball in the running back's belly, the linebacker has to pause, right? They're not getting to their depth as fast, or whether it's horizontal or vertical stretch, and you're talking about creating seams for your guys to then go play in. The thing that should be different, I think the thing that we're all hoping is different, is that whether it's play action, whether it's about keeping the pocket clean, just not getting punched in the face on release, and having another guy in Pickens, having a healthy guy in Ferguson, where you have levels of the field that you can dictate to the defense what they can do, right? So that when you're picking them apart, if it is a situation where it's our guy versus your guy, hey, guess what? For the first time in a few years, our guy's better than your guy. And we got 2 or 3 of those guys that are better than 2 or 3 of your guys. That's a different picture.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And they ran into a big problem last year. I don't know if it comes up on any of these, but I found a graphic that showed just how bad they were going to the outside and how infrequently they even tried to do it. And as a result, not only was it killing your running game, but it was killing your over-the-middle pass game, where CeeDee Lamb's trying to work, where Jake Ferguson's trying to work. what the lack of George Pickens or the lack of a legitimate secondary receiver did last year was effectively kill everything, because they could sit on CD in the middle. And, oh, by the way, while we're here, we're also going to limit your running game up the middle. And the Cowboys have just not been good running outside. So they're daring you, please throw outside, run outside. We know you can't do either of those things. And, I think for a lot of last season was just doomed to failure. It really was, because of how they built the roster.
There's a human nature element of this too, because everything that you just said, it can be and ultimately is in this situation true. And at the same time, when you then get a play call that is ostensibly designed for CeeDee Lamb to be the guy who gets the ball, even if he is covered or even if it is a tight window, because they've been struggling and because they're talking on the sideline and because you're looking at pictures and you're saying, hey, I'm open. And George Pickens is going to be chirping in his ear saying, I'm always bleeping open. Throw me the ball. Now you're forcing one to try to get your guy going. And it might be the wrong thing to do. And you might know that. And you're still going to do it because it's CeeDee Lamb. But CeeDee Lamb, go back to Dez. I mean, Dez is the most famous one, with Megatron and Randy Moss. I mean, Dez is one of the only guys to legitimately have two corners on him pre-snap and sometimes throw safety over the top. Like, Dez was that special. CeeDee Lamb, for as great as he is, he's not the same kind of physical receiver. He's not the same kind of receiver as a Dez, as a Megatron, as a Randy Moss. George Pickens is. And so what's going to be really interesting about this is if you've got George Pickens and you have to double him, or the coverage rotates to him in double coverage post-snap, and CeeDee Lamb is now singled up, we're going to get to see CeeDee Lamb do things that we haven't been seeing him do for a couple years because the opportunities just aren't there. And then you hit CD, now you got to go back to doubling him. Now George Pickens is singled up, right? It's a cause and effect type thing. And to this point, for several years now, the only cause and effect has been what the defense has been able to do to you.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think team building, and this Cowboys team has to pick one of these years and say, hey, we got to make sure Dak has everything. And, he's on the other side of 30, 4 years left on his contract. Pick one and please give a great team. When you mentioned like Pickens getting one-on-one, it reminds me of Des Caught it in 2014. 4.5 minutes to go. It's 4th and 3. We have Cole Beasley underneath for an easy first down, keep the chains moving, grind this game out. But Tony and Dez knew if you get one-on-one, we're going to it. And I feel like that's going to be the same with George Pickens, and hopefully the coaching staff insists on it. When George Pickens is one-on-one, the entire stadium should know what we're doing. And
go back to that trap coverage and the one that he threw in the end zone where Branch just basically ignores. He never really even gets close to the flat route, and he's able to drop and pick that ball. Dak is expecting that dude to be open. Dak is expecting there to be space to the back pylon, and it's just not going to be there because it's a trap coverage. Branch barely glances at the flat. What Dak's also going to have to do, going back to the discipline thing, is even if it's Scooney out there, right? If it's a slant flat, if it's a classic route combination of any kind, and it's Jaden Blue especially, right? Or if it's Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders out there, just take those 5, 7, let him make a dude miss, get 9 or 11. Yeah, this is the center fielder one. The guy looks like Ken Griffey Jr. There's nothing like, it's ridiculous. But I'm talking about the one the Branch interception in the end zone against Detroit, where the flat route is open, and that's the thing that's going to be fascinating about, because again, Dak's a 66.8 guy career, and he's been a 69 plus guy in 2003, right, or 2023. Sorry, this one. So watch the flat route to the top.
Yeah, he's got him right there, Tolbert. And he throws basically into double, maybe triple cover. But look at the linebacker cheating. Like, that is what Dak gets when you can't run the football and you can't protect him and you let them get home with 4. It just drives me crazy watching this stuff happen. Look at this dude here. Like, we're not even defending the outside or the line of scrimmage. We're all just back here in medium range, creating serious obstacles for passing completions.
Well, so now on the back side of that, you're going to have George Pickens one-on-one, right? So if you're going to ignore the flat route and you're going to double CD, now George Pickens is going to it's not a 50-50 ball when it's George Pickens, right? That's the difference. That hasn't existed. And man, 18 weeks of these two to get your popcorn ready, like a TO talking noise, about what they may or may not do or who may or may not be the guy. Like, get your popcorn ready, TO, because these guys are coming for all your numbers.
Okay, I guess as I'm going through this, it's just, is this hopium or copium on how bad Dak's year was, and we're trying to convince ourselves that's not going to happen again, right? It's not going to happen again because then now they have too much help. But additional stats on this just for context. As we transition here on How About Wow. Memory going. Getting the muscle memory going. Among quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks, Dak had the sixth highest uncatchable pass rate at 23.3 last year. Also had the fourth lowest accuracy plus rate, which is passes with near perfect location and away from coverage so the guy can get it and go. And his turnover worthy plays ranked him 61st, dude. 4.8% of all Dak plays last year, 1 in 20, were turnover worthy. So, maybe he should have had 15 or 16 turnovers. I was surprised that many quarterbacks played last year 61. I was thinking, okay, 32 starters. How many quarterbacks could have possibly played last year? Well, Dak was 61st in turnover worthy plays. Cooper Rush was much better. He was second place MVP in 2023. Here's what I'm getting to, New Bear. Like, what is it ideally?
Did I lose you?
Points. That was 19th among 48 quarterbacks in 2023. And his accuracy plus rate ranked 35th out of 48. So, hey, this is to acknowledge the Dak critics or the Dak haters, no matter what side of the equation you want to be on, there is legitimate credibility to, hey, Dak's ball placement accuracy is not elite or anywhere close to it, nowhere near top 10. And I think that's important when you're looking at slants and when you're looking at screens, trying to get a guy in space and go to the house. If I have to turn my back to the end zone I'm attacking to get the catch, play's over. We got a quarter or a half of a second to get this ball in my hands so I can shift my vision upfield and make a guy miss. Otherwise, I'm done. And I just don't know if Dak is good enough at those things to think we are going to have a great offense that can hold up in January without a great run game. Like, the margin for error is just too tight when you're dealing with those kind of metrics.
Don't forget, in 2022, he led the league in picks and he only played 12 games. He threw 15 in 12 games in 2022. But at the same time, law of averages, I mean, we talk about injury luck, right? We hope this team, that's the one thing for the whole team is injury luck, right? Based on maybe them, you talk about the all-pro and pro bowlers. They've had more guys miss more time since 2021 than all but one or two other teams. Dak's career interception percentage is like 2. Tom Brady's is 1.8. I mean, everyone talks about Aaron Rodgers and how he doesn't throw the ball to the other team. Aaron Rodgers 1.4. You want to look at thousands of throws over 10 plus years. His career interception rate is 2. So it's not like this dude's out there like Terry Bradshaw yesteryear where you're throwing more picks than touchdowns, or he's had seasons where he's been 3+, 4+ to 1. I mean, he's been a guy who for the most part takes career care of the football. When you're talking about being 210 to 80, like those over 10 years, the sample size extended, right? We're talking about a year where he was playing undermanned, probably playing hurt. Let's be honest. Like, you don't just have the bones snap without any other preamble, right? Like, he's playing dinged up. He's got a limited weapons. He's had problems with the offensive line up front. And I talk about this all the time. You can make data work for or against. You can talk about 2022 leading the league with 15 picks in 12 games. You can talk about his uncatchable ball. Your numbers that you're talking about right now, though, the big wild card in all this, the big mitigating thing in the positive is George Pickens. And not just George Pickens on 50-50 balls, which is what he's done in Pittsburgh for 3 years, including an 1,100+ yard season with a bunch of dogs in the quarterback room. Not DAWGS, but guys who shouldn't have been playing on Sunday.
We'll get to what other things can be different about 2025 beyond George Pickens. I think that's a really interesting branch of the topic tree. But the thing that I find interesting, I want to get your thoughts on, New Bear. In 2023, Dak's second MVP, they didn't have a great running game there either. So what they did is they kept him clean with Tyron Smith and a healthier Zach Martin. They had Cooks, they had Gallup, they had non-injured Jake Ferguson. So, I mean, yes, George Pickens is better than all of those guys. But if you can just give him somewhat serviceable players, Tony Pollard, great in the passing game, right? He wasn't making house calls like he did in 2022, but in 2023, that version of Tony Pollard, was getting 4.1 an attempt as compared to 5 or 4.7 as he was earlier in his career, but he was still there in the passing game in a way that Dak could trust and know. The guy knew the offense. Same thing with Jake Ferguson, same thing with Cooks. And I know Gallup's catch rate was only 50%, but he gave you that downfield. He gave you those sideline catches and that toe tapping element that George Pickens is going to give you. So I think there are so many definitively things that were Dak's surroundings last year that were just worse. That confidence should be high for 2025. We've seen all the picks. Let me ask you this. What do you think about the tackle play, New Bear? Because it's almost like they believe Dak can play with average tackle play or even below average. The problem is when it really gets into his face.
Middle.
He can mitigate the outside well. It's like he's got spidey senses on the left, and he knows Terrence Steele is in trouble on the right. So every time he drops back, he's mitigating those, and he can slide through it diagonally. When it gets into his face and somebody can hit him as he throws, it's over.
I mean, Dak has an NFL arm. I mean, let's not try to undersell. His athletic gifts are really good. I mean, he's a B+, A-, like a Joe Burrow type of guy, where you look at him top to bottom, and does he have the biggest arm? Is he the fastest? Is he the biggest? No, but he's you talk about data, and you look at all like how you would build a quarterback, and you people talk about, you take Dan Marino or John Elway's arm and Tom Brady's brain, and he's one of those guys that has enough of all of the things, whether you're talking about counting stats or just the gut eye test stuff, right? He's got enough of those things, like you said, to be a quarterback you can win a Super Bowl with. The question is, can he be the reason that you win the Super Bowl? And I think when you look at Tom Brady, the conversation is, look at what he did with all the dudes he didn't have. And then when you gave him Randy Moss, he breaks every record there is. When you look at Peyton Manning, he had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Go to Denver and look at the dudes that he had. And oh, by the way, also running game, or at least enough of a running game to threaten and be able to do all the things off of it that you want to. What Dak doesn't have is Matthew Stafford's arm. What Dak doesn't have is that supernatural next level stuff, the Mahomes throwing sidearm, or people are talking about, Cam Ward looking real Mahomes-ish at OTAs and stuff. And these guys that have those, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, that truly special unicorn type stuff. So if you put him in a position to be as clean as possible and allow him to step up and play to the best of his ability, he can beat anybody.
So where does it go from here? Oh, sorry. I thought I was losing you a little bit. I thought you stopped talking, New Bear. Where does it go from here? How do we make 2025 pop? We'll talk about that in just a second. This episode of How About Wow is once again brought to you by our friends at Harbor Lighting, the specialty lighting design and installation team of DFW. Go to harborenterprisesllc.com. They have a Christmas and July special going on right now. You can schedule for December and save, but also their permanent lighting solutions, like you see on screen right now, they're next level. It's going to make your home or business look awesome. So give our friends at Harbor Lighting a call out there for any DFW lighting needs, brother. Okay, so
you're talking about how do you get it right in 2025, right?
Yeah.
So we asked a couple weeks back, we said, what do you think they do? Because they threw the bubble screen to Dez, right? Play one. Are they throwing a deep ball to Pickens or whoever gets singled up? Are we just chucking it up? Like
absolutely.
Old school Tecmo Bowl, run backwards to the goal line and let her fly,
No reason not to.
So if you do that, and I'm not literally saying just do it for the hell of it, but I'm saying, how do we get to a place where we're dictating terms? Like, are you coming out in 12 personnel and we're going to headbang on first and second down and come what may on third, right? Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. I
like the tight formation in 12, conditioning to run and then popping it. I think that's gold. If you can get them to think, oh, they're in 12, they're going to kick our ass in the run game again, they're done.
Yeah, well, and let's not forget that if you're in 12 personnel, you want to talk about, is Ferg healthy? Was Schoonmaker an overreach with his selection? All these other things that we've talked about with the running back room. Just don't forget, as long as there's two wide receivers out there and their names are CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, whatever personnel you run out there, it's a problem.
Yeah, it is. I think, so it's getting in 12, I think a lot. It's Scooney and Span Ford, not Ferguson in 12. You got to get those tight ends catching the ball well enough because they are bruisers in the run game. I think this is Shoddy and Clayton Adams, not running play action. 27th most in the entire NFL when it's cleared. Dak does that really good. Dak's always been a great long passer, right? The deep ball. His PFF score last year was 90, okay? Anything over 70 is really good. He did nothing over 70 other than clean pocket and play action along with the deep ball. And he's always been good at that. So I think, yes, we're making the defense terrified that we're going to go long, and we're making them terrified that we're going to get them with a smash mouth run game. And I think that's what Shoddy and his staff have talked about. I think Javonte Williams is a big part of this, brother. And it would drive us crazy on the Cowboys beat over the years that they would leave Zeke in for his pass pro. But Miles Sanders isn't good at it. I don't know how good Jaden Blue is going to be good at it year one. I just don't know if he's big enough at 200 pounds. But Javonte Williams can mitigate that pressure up the middle. Right? I'm keeping him in. We're going deep. And as that fifth guy comes free or the twist finally comes open, boom, there's Javonte Williams. And I believe he's one of the best pass protecting running backs in the game. So I don't think they imagine Javonte Williams is going to run for even 700 or 800 yards this year, but I think he's going to be a big part of the pass game.
Well, and if he's on the team, what you're saying is that he's at least back to being a facsimile of what he was or what everyone thought he was going to be in Denver, 900-yard rookie, but catching 40 or 50 balls. And that's why talking about hitting that flat, taking what is there, death by 1,000 paper cuts, knowing that you're always going to have the ability to hang one up for Pickens, knowing that you're assuming any injury luck, assuming that you have some version of Ferguson, Pickens, and Lamb for 15, 16, 17 of the 18 weeks, there's going to be things that you can do when you have to do it. What I'm talking about is how are they going to use that to dictate terms? Because if you're talking about Javonte Williams being, or let's say it goes all the way down to Maffa, and it's just that head-banging 230-pound element in the backfield, not Miles Sanders as a slasher, not Jaden Blue as a slasher, and not what they can do in space, but banging heads and being stubborn, being in 12 personnel, being conditioned to run. That's where the big shots come off of that. Because if you come out in 12, you're dictating the defense. If the defense is in a sub package and you come out in 12 personnel, they're in 4-2-5, and you can't run the ball, you should just walk off the field and quit. Like it's that simple, right? If they're playing 3-4-4-3 or whatever their hybrid version of today's modern NFL defense is, and you're in 12 personnel and you can't throw the ball over their heads with George Pickens, shame on you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. And I think Javonte Williams got to be a big part of that. Those additional tight ends I talked about got to be a big part of it as well. But yeah, I don't think 2023 was a lie. I think it was like a false sense of security because Cooks, Gallup, Ferguson, it's not like they're all world, but they were so much better than the guys that played last year or that version of Ferguson last year that I think it, and then the other thing about 2024 is it was kind of a Cowboys rebuild, even though they don't say that. I mean, they set a record for not spending in free agency and letting so many guys go. I don't think they would ever acknowledge it because they want the public to think they're going for the Super Bowl every year. But I just don't know if they. What's that?
Brandon Cooks is a professional wide receiver. I love Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks 1,000 yards with 4 different teams. It was like he was, hey, I'm just going to go get 1,000, and they're going to trade me. I'll just go get 1,000 with someone else. I'm going to show up. I'm going to get 1,000 yards. He also had like 1,000 concussions. And oh, by the way, he was 5'8", and he's 30 years old in the season that you're talking about. 5'8" dudes that aren't Steve Smith Sr. don't age well when they're getting their heads knocked off.
No, he couldn't put his foot in the ground and come back and shield the receiver for the comebackers, and he couldn't win big anymore. He couldn't win down the field against younger corners having to close on that ball and make plays. And, Brandon Cooks, 26 catches, 259 yards last year. I'm not even sure how many games Brandon Cooks played last year, but it wasn't all of them. And it wasn't a great year for Brandon Cooks here. Let me bring this up. What was it? 10 games played, 2.5 catches per game on average for 10 yards of completion, career lows. I think Brandon Cooks hit a wall last year, and maybe that was part of the overestimation of Dak's supporting cast.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks is a guy, he's quarterback friendly. He's scheme friendly, even at his size. And he had a very, very good professional career and was an amazing college player. And he's a good dude, and everybody loves him. And everywhere he goes, he just showed up. He brought his tiny little lunch pail, and he put up huge numbers. If Brandon Cooks, if we're Gallup after AC, if we're talking about any of these guys, all of them together don't have the athletic ability of George Pickens.
The other cool thing about Brandon Cooks, we interviewed him a couple of times. He probably flew his own plane there too. He's a pilot.
He's an awesome. What a great story too. I mean, when you talk about guys that are easy to root for, he's on the short list.
Yeah.
That was
okay. So just to kind of wrap this up and conclude it, we'd love to have your comments below. Please like the video if you made it this far. It'll help us grow. But I think the answer for the Cowboys and their fans is clear going into 2024. At least offensively. I mean, the defensive troubleshooting is a whole nother show. Can you keep Dak clean? Verse 4. If you can do that, you will make them blitz. Okay. If you can run the ball, your play action is going to be incredibly better. But you also must threaten them on the outside of the field to open up CeeDee Lamb and the tight ends in the middle of the field. And I believe all of those things are going to happen. Terrence Steele is good enough. Dak Prescott's perfectly comfortable playing with him. Tyler Guyton improving his body, getting serious. Last year, you had flipping Adoga out there, right? And when he wasn't out there at left tackle, you did have the rookie Guyton, who was like leading the NFL in penalties at his position, getting overextended. I mean, it was brutal. You had Beebe trying to figure it out as a rookie, and you had Zach Martin getting old.
Beebe wasn't a center yet either.
Yeah. No, he wasn't. It took him a while. In camp, even the kick step was tough for hip to get down just because of the muscle memory.
Have you ever done? Have you ever actually hovered over a ball, snapped it, and tried to do anything?
No.
Like there's a. Oh, I can almost do it. My thumb's almost good enough to do it. There's a heartbeat where you almost forget your own name, and oh, by the way, here comes Jalen Carter and Dominic too. Like it's a different deal playing center than playing guard. It's man, that's
how much center did you do?
So because of my T-Rex arms and my wife says I'm not allowed to say I'm 6 feet tall anymore. She's 6'2". I'm 5'11" and 9/10, right? So
you and me both.
My college quarterbacks were both bigger than me, and they would mess with me, and I get over the ball. They take a delay game in practice just to prove that I wasn't going to play center in any game, right? So I mean, we're going to take this one from the gun. Whatever play was called, you're in the gun if I'm over the ball. But even just thinking about that transition and doing it on Sunday, this wasn't a guy who was asked to do it as like a redshirt senior in college and on a dominant team where you're learning this is doing it on Sunday against other Sunday dudes is about as hard as it gets in football when it comes to line play. And when you think about him having his college coach now in that same room, right? And you think about the guys that he's got on either side of him, there's a couple slobber knocker big uglies that are going to have his back playing on the left and the right side, right? And your guy brought us. G-Bag Nation thinks Richards is going to push Guyton, and now we're talking about depth.
Man, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up because, Broadus was hot on Richards, and he's been talking about how the coaching staff has liked him for probably 2 years. I think he came aboard in 2023, and I mean the good news there is if Guyton does totally bust, you have a serviceable option that should also be better than Adoga last year. Buddy, anything to add on what needs to happen for Dak Prescott to be the 2023 version of himself before we dip?
All right, so we fixed the cadence, so we're not going to know when the ball's being snapped. Our center has another year under his belt with his college coach to help him matriculate to understanding, getting that heartbeat back, right, making up that little snap action. We got Pickens on the outside. We got a battle royale in the running back room. What are you shaking your head? You disagreeing?
My kids are trying to barge in, and I'm telling them to please leave us.
2025. For me, the biggest thing is dictating terms.
Yeah.
Who are you going to be? I don't want to hear this week to week. Who were multiple. Like, what are you coming out and saying we're going to hang our hat on? To me, that is the most fascinating part of training camp, based on who's available, based on who steps up. Like, if some of this stuff sorts itself, if Guyton is the guy, or if Richards pushes him to the bench, that means you got 5, not just serviceable, but you got an offensive line. You got a real front wall. You got to dictate terms to the other team. The same way we were talking about last week, wins on a quarterback stack. It's not all on Dak. What's around Dak? All these different things we're doing to evaluate Dak. Let's look at the running backs and just say simply, flatly, and plainly that when the Shanahan system doesn't care who's back there. They like to have Christian McCaffrey, but they'll take 6th-round guys from the Marines and put them in the Pro Bowl. Shout out Mike Anderson. If that line is legit, and you're talking about having a couple slobber knocker, big ugly tight ends in 12, and then you sneak Ferguson in there, and maybe he can do enough in line in some of that 12 formation. It shouldn't matter who wins the running back battle royale. If you've got Pickens on the outside, knowing you can take the top off at any time, and CeeDee Lamb is in the conversation to be wide receiver 1 league-wide, then what are you using those tools to do to the rest of the league? It's that simple for me.
Speaking of tools, man, salute to Pro Football Focus. I know they get some stuff for player grades and how they can score film. It's tough to get those 100% right. without being inside the meetings with teams. You know, it's just impossible. But the pressure, the box counts, the play actions, the splits, you can get, it's well worth the 10 or 12 bucks a month or whatever it is. So I want to thank them for providing so much. And I also want to salute this dude who's got every Dak pick. This guy has 35 subs. He's the guy. Let me show him to you real quick. Go follow this guy, man. He put together this great video that we could use. We used it multiple times here during the show. So salute to the guy there with his 35 subs for doing the best job on Dak interceptions for 2024. Till next time, you can read all of our stuff and get our socials at howboutwow.com.